And the winner is Washington, the District of Columbia, where this house is just one of many, immersed in luxury and not for sale. But what happens here and here and here played a major role in some changes in the latest U.S. Census data. The Washington, D.C. metropolitan area today has the lowest poverty rate in the country at 8.4%.
Money is a magnet, and it pulls people here to make more money.
That made clear as well in a survey of median household income, with 4 out of the 5 wealthiest counties also in the D.C. metro area and its surrounding suburbs. One of those places is Fairfax County, Virginia, home to the National Counterterrorism Center, the CIA, and it's located less than 20 miles outside of downtown Washington. So for those who work inside the city, it's a fairly easy commute. And not a bad one when you're coming home to this or this. Not a foreclosed sign or even a for sale sign in sight. Big houses are needed, after all, for those with big bank accounts.
We're seeing more and more in D.C. a lot of military contractors coming to Washington, D.C., a lot of telecom, and a lot of Wall Street firms opening up offices here.
You had a lot of big issues happen these last few years: healthcare reform, financial reform that brought in insurers, Wall Street types, all kinds of people who are looking to make the process work for their bottom lines.
Chris Freites is the lobbying correspondent for the National Journal and says big companies put big bets in Washington because they almost always pay off.
If you're a huge company, if you're able to take that $10 million investment and find a tax loophole that saves you $1 billion a year, that's a very smart investment.
On the streets of Washington, these have become a familiar sight. And it's no wonder. iWatch News found there has been a 73% increase in government-owned limousines in the last 2 years, from 238 in 2008 to 412 in 2010. A few miles south and east, it is a different set of wheels you'll more likely see: the city bus. The people who live here more aware of the other extreme statistic that came out of last year's census, that D.C. has the highest rate of those considered poorest of the poor, or those who live at 50% or less of the official poverty level.
I think it's a boundary, it's a line drawn somewhere, an imaginary line that separates the people.
The Anacostia River here could be that line, the proverbial train tracks, where life on the other side is almost another world, and where many have been pushed to after getting priced out of their homes.
A lot of people can't afford the rent that's going on today because they're moving everyone out. I mean, even around my way, who can afford $200,000 condo?
Even here, people are getting pushed further outside, with evictions more and more widespread.
They used to call this Chocolate City, you know, and we were not rich, you know what I mean? So when they finally moved us all out, I knew the rich was coming.
And come they did, transforming the U.S. Capitol into a microcosm of the nation, where the gulf between rich and poor continues to deepen. In Washington, Kristine RT.
8 years after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, those accused of planning them will stand trial in a civilian federal court. Alleged mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 others, all being held at Guantanamo Bay, will be tried together in New York City.
These were extraordinary crimes, and so we will seek maximum penalties. Federal rules allow us to seek the death penalty.
5 others accused in the bombing of the USS Cole will be tried before a military commission.
That was an attack on a United States warship, and that, I think, is appropriately placed into the military commission setting.
A federal trial for the 9/11 suspects sparked criticism from many. Senator John McCain saying, quote, "Terrorists who have declared war against our country should be treated as war criminals and tried for their crimes through military tribunals." Some also question the possibility of a fair trial and whether the defense could ask that the case be dismissed because Muhammad was tortured.
I don't expect that a federal judge will actually dismiss the case, but it's not a frivolous issue and it's not a frivolous motion.
But President Obama says he is confident there is enough evidence to prosecute and convict.
The American people will insist on it, and my administration will insist on it.
President Obama had hoped to close Guantanamo Bay before the end of January. And while Attorney General Holder says these trials are a step in the right direction, he doubts that deadline will be met.
In Washington, I'm Kristine Frizzau.
1, 2, 3, up. Recognizable stuff here, and then non-recognizable stuff out there.
Dan Lockenbrook's kitchen is now in his driveway. And with a team of friends and neighbors, he is spending the day mining for memories.
I did find a really shiny, melted piece of what looked like silver.
Buried beneath the rubble that was once his house, his high school yearbook.
You can still see how you can see little people's faces on here.
An old wagon, even a lasagna. There are only a few things, he says, he'll miss.
I journaled for my kids since they were born. I journaled for them, and I'd love to have that stuff back.
Lockenbrook is one of the few people here in Rancho Bernardo who had no idea the fire was anywhere close. He was just a little busy that day.
We're out the Harris fire. It's burning. They put us in front of the fire.
Lockenbrook is a firefighter with the La Mesa Fire Department who saved countless homes over the last week, but was unable to save his own.
I'm a fireman. That's what I do, and that's the job. And so finish your job.
Before he came back to see what was left of his house, neighbors stopped by. They put these flags alongside his lawn to make sure he'd know he had support when he needed it.
You know, these are people you wave to once on the street, twice, hey, how you doing? Here they are. They're right here.
He and his 3 boys are now living in his camper.
Well, that's another question for you.
As he begins looking at the road ahead, Lockenbrook says there's been only one thought on his mind.
That's all. My kids are safe, and that's all. Everything else is stuff.
Kristine Frizzau, NBC 739.